I'm doing fine, I'm feeling great. You're not my fan, you can't relate. Straight talk going, stays not safe. Before you cross me, look both ways. Leaving the scene with no trace, none in my league. You out of place, I'm not at the top, I'm outer space. Can't eat with us, we're out of place. I'm doing fine, I'm feeling great. You're not my fan, you can't relate. Straight talk going, state to state.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's your host, your boy, George Mackay, back in the Straight Talk studios, and I got a good one. I got a young man who's been on my radar for some time, and he has yet to be on Straight Talk. That's because I lollygagged and I missed the boat, but he graciously accepted when I reached out. Without further ado, please help me welcome one of the hottest rising stars in Canada, period. I'm putting my stamp on it now, Junior Benito to Straight Talk Wrestling. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good. Dude, it's been a while that you've been on my radar. You've been picking up steam. You've been killing it. You're one of the hottest rising stars in Ontario, like I said in your introduction. And it's great to finally sit down and chat it up with you for a little bit. So the first question I have is obviously anybody who watched, Dark Elevation, they saw that you were on it. You're also one of the security guards, if you will, on Rampage, and you took a wicked shot from Jade Cargill, probably one of the strongest wrestlers in the business, and China the second coming, in my opinion. What was it like getting a forearm shot from that lady?
Dude, it was kind of one of those moments. I'm sure you've had this moment before where like it feels surreal as you're in the moment, because like when you're in her presence, it's like, man, this is pretty cool. Then it kind of felt real as soon as I felt the impact, and then as soon as I got the hit, I was on the floor. All I really saw was just the lights of the arena, and then Jade's figure just coming over me, just starting to smack talk me like, why'd you do this? You made me do this. And I was like, man, this is amazing. That's all I can really tell myself. It was so cool.
Yeah, you gotta love that. You gotta love that when somebody can knock you on your ass and then shit talk you and say it's your fault. You made me hit you. I didn't want to hit you. You made me do it.
I'm not gonna lie, she could have said anything and I would have been like, yeah, you're right.
So I've heard that AEW is one of the greatest experiences for any up-and-coming wrestler. A lot of times they go to the city, they bring in a lot of locals to help out with the extra work, as well as WWE does that as well. But how was the overall experience? Like, did they contact you? Did they reach out to you? I'm just interested to see how the whole experience kind of came to be for you.
Honestly, the way it all happened was we all got the news that AEW was coming to Canada, and then overall we all got excited because the independent wrestlers got, like, they thought they were gonna have a glimpse of hopefully going there for extra work and just being extra hands to help. And me, honestly, I didn't know what to expect. All I really got was a word, and I was told that I'm going, and I was like, all right, I'll follow your lead. And then I really just went with the flow. That's kind of how it's been for my whole career, to be honest. Some people tell me what to do, and I'm mainly just like, all right, I'll go with your flow. And then before I knew it, I was backstage seeing the show work,
That's awesome. And I heard that there's the talent back there is so welcoming, so forthcoming with any kind of advice or any questions you have if there's an available opportunity. Were you able to pick the brains of any of these legends when there was downtime?
It depends on the time, because there was also, it's easy when you're backstage to be classified as the annoying person, and then to be classified as the good kid who's curious. So it was really hard for me to pinpoint my opportunities. So I tried my best whenever I saw a legend, like guys like Mark Henry or Big Show. I made sure to just stay out of their way and just to not get on their bad side, because you never know if they're having a bad day or a good day. So I wouldn't want to test the waters. So whenever I could, I just talked to whoever I knew and just asked them how their experience was like in the Big Show. So whenever I got to see guys that I had a pass with, guys like Eva Luno, Stu Grayson, who made an appearance that show for Rampage, and also Daniel Garcia as well. I got to chat up with him as well because he used to wrestle for C4, so we kind of had we got to know each other a little bit beforehand. So yeah, I talked to them mainly, and whenever the legends came into the conversations, then I would try to ask some questions. Like Jerry Lynn came in at one point, we got to chat a bit. It was pretty cool. And other than that, it was overall just going with the flow again.
I like that. That's a wise attitude. I mean, you're a young cat, man. That's an attitude a lot of people still haven't learned. Like, I'm almost 40 and I still haven't learned to just go with the flow. I'm aggressive in a lot of aspects, man. I would put myself in there, but that's a very wise attitude to have, especially around all those legends. I mean, now, I'm a wrestling mark. I have a wrestling podcast. I love wrestling. Wrestling is kind of everything next to my family, and that's about it. It's like family wrestling 1, 2. But were you starstruck at all? Like, I mean, you got to chat it up with Jerry Lynn. Like, if I got to chat up with Jerry Lynn, I would just be like, dude, can we take a selfie? Because that's all I would really want. Like, but were you starstruck at all?
To be honest, I'm very, very glad that nowadays I don't get as starstruck. I got my first glimpse of starstruck was a long time ago when I was like probably 13 or 14. I went to my first show at C4. And at that show, Too Cold Scorpio, out of all people, he was wrestling at that show. And that was my first glimpse of being starstruck. And ever since then, everyone else that came about afterwards, I can name a huge list of names that I've met, but it would take all day. So I've learned just to be calm and just I realize I meditate about it and I tell myself they're people just like me, just like you. They all bleed blood, you know. So whatever they've accomplished is wonderful, but they're all human beings. So they've all have feelings. We can all have conversations with them. They're all people, you know. So as soon as I got in that mentality, it kind of helped ease the factor.
I like that. I swear. How old are you again?
I am 21.
I feel like I'm talking to like a 50-year-old who's been in the business for like 30 years. You're wise. You're wise beyond your years, my man. You're wise beyond your years. So you talked about, you know, going to C4 at 13 at your very first show to get a glimpse of this business. And that was probably the spark that maybe lit the flame, or the spark was already there, but it became a bonfire at that point. So what was it like going to that show and then literally only a few years later, you know, 5-6 years later, you're wrestling at C4? That had to be a moment for sure.
Yeah, it was pretty cool because I remember being at my first show and the first thought that came across my mind was, man, this ring is loud. It's like, because I've never actually been in the physical presence of a ring. So whenever people fall and the big like loud bumps you hear, it's incredible. And it gave me a headache. And then I started second guessing myself as a joke, of course. Just like, should I get into this? I don't know. It was pretty cool to see. It was great to notice, but it was honestly a few months later I actually got into the business, because the next show I went up to whoever was tearing down the ring and just asked them how'd they get the job. And then that led to me meeting the promoter. Then he told me, hey, if you want to just come by to volunteer and help set up the ring and tear down. And I was like, of course. And me being 14 or 15 at the time, it was a huge opportunity to get to know the wrestlers and to get on their good side before I even started training. So that is probably one of the greatest things I could have done to benefit my career long term. So I'm really glad I got to do that.
Absolutely, man. Again, that's smart. Like I said, putting yourself out there, being aggressive, figuring out where you can pick your spots to kind of grow within, and then develop into, like I said, one of the hottest rising stars in Ontario and Canada, period. I'll put my stamp on it. Now, you also had a match. I was there in the audience at Dynamite. I got to see you wrestle in a tag match. What was that like, wrestling in a crowd of easily somewhere between 10 to 15,000 people? How do you control your nerves when you're wrestling in crowds of about, let's say, ballpark, honestly, somewhere between 800 to 1,600, maybe 2,000, depending on the size of the venue? You go from 2,000 people, which can still be a very loud voice, to 12,000 plus. How do you maintain composure during that?
I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. I'll see if I could put it the best way I can. So I remember when everything was going about, and I was just like, "Wow, this is cool." But the real nerves came up when we were walking through the curtain towards the ring, and we saw how big the crowd was, and me and my partner Dylan, we were just like, "Wow, this is really cool." We were hyping each other up, like, "This is awesome." But then as soon as I got in the ring, I stepped in. Then I was just like, this is just like any other ring I've stepped into, just a little cleaner. But so honestly, it's as soon as I stepped in the ring, the nerves kind of faded away a little bit. My only goal was to just do my job, and thankfully everything went by pretty well.
Everything did go by pretty well. It was an awesome match. I was pulling for you guys. I mean, everyone in the crowd was pulling for the local talent for sure, even if they didn't know who they were, because in Canada, no matter if you're a heel or a face or an unknown, as soon as they say from Canada, you're over.
Yeah.
Wrestling crowd, you are over. So everybody was pulling for it. And it was nice to just see so many of these up-and-coming talents getting these moments, getting these spots. When you went backstage, the match was over. Any feedback given? Anything, you know, this was good, work on this, maybe do that? I mean, even with the people you were wrestling with, and forgive me, I'm drawing a huge blank. Who were you in the ring with again? Because Dynamite was just a surreal moment for me as well as a fan. I was just sitting there soaking it all in myself. I completely forgot who you guys were in the ring with.
It was me and Dylan versus Jay Lethal and Satnam Singh.
That's who it was. So that's right. I remember both of you. So what's it like stepping in the ring, looking up at a guy that's easily double your size?
First thought was, wow, that was really it. So even when they're introducing me like in the ring, I heard my name Junior Benito, but I was like, yeah, I heard my name, that's cool, but man, look how tall he is. That's all I could think of. My hands over my mouth, just like, man, and I was just like, dude, this guy's huge. If you look back at the footage, it's all I could do. Like, this guy's gigantic. But the real moment where I realized how big he was when I went for that first hit on his chest. It had no effect on him at all, sadly. But I remember just hitting him and looking up at him this way. And then right behind him was the lights of the arena. And I was just like, man, he's gigantic. And then he just took care of me, I guess.
Yeah, he definitely took care of you. You didn't even let Jay Lethal get any work on you, man. Were you excited that you might get to lock up with Jay Lethal?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Some people are bummed that I didn't get to actually physically get in contact with him. But for now, I was pretty thankful just to be in the ring physically with him, just stepping in the ring with him and just being able to just be like in the ring with Jay Lethal. I don't know how to say it better, but it was pretty cool. That because as a child, he was one of the guys when I got into the independence, I started watching a little more. He was definitely one of my heroes in the sport because I loved watching his work because it seemed so effortless and fluid and everything. And when I started watching it, it was when he became, I think, television and world Ring of Honor champion. So seeing him in person and on top of that, getting to step in the ring with him, even though it was brief, it was still a huge honor, to be honest.
Absolutely, it was. I mean, when I think of Jay Lethal, I mean, everybody thinks of the same moment. I think the Ric Flair Woo battle. I mean,
yeah,
that's the moment. You know, like we should try to recreate that. Are you ready? Okay, here we go.
Woo! I can't really do it too well.
That's all good. I forgive you. It's okay. Woo is something that a lot of people think it's the easiest thing in the world to do. But when you're wooing with, 20,000 other people, you got to be on point. You got to have those couple seconds beforehand. You can't just be like, woo. You got to wait. And when you hear the first, like, woo, then you pick it up. So then it kind of echoes throughout the whole arena. You know what I mean? You can't just woo out of nowhere. You can't be brushing your teeth and just woo. It doesn't sound the same. It sounds like you're just a guy in the bathroom that's really happy that he brushed his teeth today.
Yeah, only two people can do it properly. Jay Lethal and the one and only Nature Boy Ric Flair.
You're right. Well, I'm like a distant like 77th, right? Would you give me that? Would you give me top 100 at least? No? Okay, that's
fine. Oh, most definitely. Come on.
All right, perfect. I appreciate that. So you mentioned in the conversation with the mini host, it always drops a few days before. And it's great that, all of you guys and girls give her the opportunity to sit down and have these conversations because she is the future of podcasting, in my honest opinion. She has no fear. This kid has been interviewing wrestlers since she was 8 years old. She's now 13, 5 years in the game, and she has locked down and she has no nerves. And even when I told her, I said, listen, Daddy's going to go outside for a smoke because right after dinner, you have to have the after dinner smoke if you're a smoker. It's key. I said, just set up with Junior and I'll slide in like I always do. And she did. She knocked it out of the park. I came in the interview. And, it's incredible to see how easygoing a lot of you guys are with her. And I appreciate that. Everyone in the wrestling business has been so kind to her. And it's awesome to see that camaraderie. But you mentioned about reading. Being a big fan of reading, and you're currently reading Phantom of the Opera. Now, that is one of my all-time favorite books. No bullshit. That is one of my all-time favorite books. Also, one of my all-time favorite movies. I like the original, the silent film with Lon Chaney. That's a classic. But then the one from 1935 is also a classic as well. Anything Andrew Lloyd Webber did was solid, but not the movie. The stage production was incredible. The movie, not so much.
Okay.
But when you look at classic books, like if you're locked in a library, and you've got 12 hours to kill before, you get unlocked from this library. What's a go-to classic for Junior Benito? Like, what section of the library does he go to? Where does he go? What book does he grab first? I mean, this is an interesting question because you never get somebody that so humbly out there admits, I love to read in my spare time. Because a lot of people don't read these days. A lot of people just do audiobooks. We're a very lazy society these days, Junior. Anything to get done quickly, we do it. Nobody reads books anymore, so tell me.
All right, so a little thing I forgot to add. This is probably one of my first story books that I've read.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I started this yesterday actually, so I'm very green. So please forgive me. But I've read countless books, but they've all been mainly biographies. on wrestlers and musicians and stuff like that. So I've read countless books on like Will Smith, Mike Tyson, and a bunch of other wrestlers for sure. I read the Young Bucks book as well. It was incredible. And yeah, it's mainly wrestler work and big on biographies. But if I could sit down and reread any book in a library, I'd probably reread the Will Smith book. I know he's kind of got some flack for what he did earlier this year, but
yeah. We got to tread lightly with Will Smith. We have to.
Honestly, but yeah, his book was really good though. It was really good.
Nice. For me, a go-to book of mine that I could read over and over again. I actually was one of those books you were forced to read in elementary school, and it's one of the books that's become like an all-time favorite for me. It's a book called The Giver. Okay. It's about a post, not really apocalyptic, but the world has just fallen, and society is trying to pick itself up again. And in this society, when you reach age of maturity, which I believe in the book is 13, you get assigned a task in the society. So you could be a farmer, a doctor, a lawyer, so forth and so on. And you get to go and be groomed like an apprenticeship almost by that person. So when they grow out of age, you can then take over the role. There's one particular role that's very important in society, and that's called the giver. The giver is the person that holds memories, all the memories of the past society. And he's the person or she that will go on and continue the memories of a society from the past. And this one boy gets selected to be the giver because he could see color. And that's interesting because everything in this world is black and white. There is no color. But this boy can see color. So because of that, he becomes the giver's apprentice, learning memories, learning about society, learning about everything that was once there that he never knew about. It becomes very overwhelming. And then he tries to escape from the society to find a world outside. If people are living like they used to outside of this enclosed society. It's a fantastic read. I highly recommend it. It actually won the Pulitzer, I believe, for one of the best fiction books of its time. Check it out. It's called The Giver. It's fantastic. There is a movie. It's absolute trash. Enjoy the book because your memory is the best movie you could ever watch compared to any other movie that's made. But if you get a chance, I highly recommend it. It's called The Giver. It's fantastic.
Okay, cool. The Giver. I'll make sure to keep that in mind for sure.
Put it on your list. Put it on your list for sure. Now, you mentioned autobiographies. I'm a big autobiography guy. The one I haven't been able to put down and I've reread twice because I absolutely love him as a performer and I love the book was Moxley. The John Moxley biography was fantastic. Have you had a chance to pick that one up yet?
Yes, I got it for Christmas, and I finished that book actually 2 months ago. It was a pretty good one.
Oh, it's amazing. I'm rereading it for the third time now.
Wow.
I'm chapter. Oh, dude, I love it. I don't know. It's weird to say because you look at Moxley and you think this guy's all over the fucking place. But when he's actually sitting down telling all these stories, it just absolutely fascinates me how really humble of a person he is, but also how much he had to go through just to get where he is. And people I don't think see that. So when you have these real life stories that come out through page, I still think books are the best form of communication in the world. We can have cell phones and all this nonsense, but at the end of the day, picking up a good book, sitting down with a good drink in front of a fireplace, that's Netflix and chill for me. Okay?
That's the fun.
That's Netflix and chill for me. Now, going back to your career, so many matches that I could list off the top of my head that were fantastic. Eva Uno, I know that was a great match. Josh Alexander, that match, you guys tore it down. And that was Josh Alexander. Josh Alexander's never not been in his prime. That was him, a couple of years out of neck surgery. He was working the indies. He was doing his thing and he's in Impact and you get a chance to go toe to toe with him. What's it like stepping in the ring with arguably one of the best performers in today? Forget PWI. Fuck that nonsense. Top five performer. And you get to step into the ring with him and you get to tear it down and have arguably one of the best matches I've ever seen.
Dude, first off, thank you so much for saying that. That means a lot. But it was a very, very, I'm not going to lie, it was probably one of the greatest experiences of my life, simply because I don't know if I haven't told this to many people, but early on in the match, I got concussed pretty bad and I blacked out. I just did not know what happened after that. I kind of gained consciousness I got out of the state after the match. So it was after I took a power bomb. After that, the train was still rolling, but no one was conducting the train, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. I was still moving, but it was really much just I did not know what I was doing. And then after, when the match finished, I thought the match had ended earlier. I thought I got referee stoppage or something. So it was just a really emotional time for me. I cried like a baby, and it was all over the place. So that experience alone was really, really crazy. And everyone was saying the match was great. And it just shows how much of a professional and how incredible Josh Alexander really is. He could really have an incredible match with a broomstick if he had to, honestly. So it was incredible, man.
That's amazing. You were concussed, and that's a great way to put it. The train was still rolling, but there was nobody driving the train. You were just going through the motions. But did you ever have a chance? Have you gone back and looked at the footage? Have you gone back and watched the match?
Oh, countless times. It's all I could do, really. I was the 2 days after the match was completed, after the show, actually. Sorry. I watched the match. I showed my mother. I'm gonna say this for the first time. My mom's not a fan of Josh because of the match. So if she ever meets him, she'll have a stern talking to him. I I don't know how to say it, but yeah. I watched the match countless times. I showed many people, just to explain to them that anything can really happen in the ring. So it's overall just a great experience to watch again, and also to relive in my mind.
Absolutely, for sure. I completely understand that. So here's a question, because this is how we're vibing right here, Junior. You and I. You mentioned mom, and moms are key in children's lives.
Yeah.
What was the conversation like with mom when you sat her down and you looked her square in the eyes and you said, "Mom, I'm going to be a wrestler. I'm going to put my body on the line for 300 plus days a year, probably not make a whole lot of money in the beginning, but hopefully, down the line, things get better. But most of the times, I'm going to work for a handshake and a hot dog." Are you okay with this, Mom?
Technically, I've never actually had that talk with my mom, simply because I told her I wanted to be a wrestler since I was like 5. So she thought it was just a pipe dream, like a quick thing that just leaves as I get older. But then as I got older, I just kept trying to get into the business. So then she never really had to talk with me about it. She just went like, "Oh, okay, keep doing your wrestling thing, keep going." And now here I am at 21, actually doing some pretty cool things. And she is more surprised as to how much I'm doing in the business. And I'm sure she's glad that nothing too bad happened. Of course, the concussion got her on the reels a little bit. She really didn't want me to do it anymore afterwards, but I convinced her, thankfully, that all is good. I'm gonna play it more safe and everything. But yeah, she's cool with it. It's more my dad. He was much more against it. He was
really. That's interesting. Most of the times, dads are the first one to be like, if you come home picked on from school, you got a black eye. Dads are the first one to sit you down and be like, "All right, so you got a black eye tomorrow. You got to give that kid a black eye." Tit for tat, right? I'm surprised that mom would be a little bit more chillaxed than dad. That's interesting.
It's mainly because my mom's a very soft-spoken individual. So if things don't rub her the right way, she'll let you know about it, but she won't make a scene. My father, on the other hand, is one he's very old-fashioned. So in his mind, if it's not school, it's not right. So he was big on me going to school after high school and just concentrating on getting an actual job, which is normal, what any parent should be doing, which is fine. But I had really big dreams, and it took a lot of convincing. Thankfully, they agreed, and here I am today wrestling.
Well, thank God they agreed. Mom and Dad Benito, thank you guys so much for allowing him to do what he's doing, because he's absolutely killing it, and your star is only going to continue to rise. So aspiration-wise, you mentioned about wrestling as many new people as you can before the end of the year. Is there any goals that you have set for the next year? I mean, I can't believe we're already talking about 2023, and 2022 feels like it just started yesterday. It's insane that this is going to drop probably first, second week in November, and we're going to be 6 weeks out from the new year. So since we're past Thanksgiving, Halloween is around the corner. We're making a beeline for Christmas with all kinds of food, family, and really corny Christmas movies, which I love. I love corny Christmas movies. We're going to get into a game later that I think will put everyone in the Christmas spirit for sure. But what are the aspirations for next year? Is the aspirations next year to try to get stateside, to try to get more notice? Because let's be honest, Junior, let's talk about this for a second. You could be the best wrestler in Canada and still never get noticed outside of this country, for the simple fact of all the red tape and bullshit that Canadian athletes have to go through just to get over there. And something as simple as going over there and getting caught, if you will, working, you can get banned from crossing the border for life. So these are risks that a lot of athletes take just to get noticed over there, especially young up and coming wrestlers, both male and female. Have you thought about going stateside and what that might do for Junior Benito, the wrestler?
Yeah, to add to your point, yeah, we've had countless wrestlers who are now on in the stateside more with actual worldwide television, like Josh Alexander, Speedball, Mike Bailey, Evil Uno, Stu Grayson, all those guys. They're all getting their due now, which is wonderful. But yeah, my goal for the next year would definitely be to get more recognition on the stateside, on the United States. We'll see how it can go. Honestly, I'm just hoping for the best, with my fingers crossed, because you never know what can happen. It really just depends on which situations presents itself. And I just got to make sure I roll with the dice the best I can and hope for the best.
Absolutely. I like that. I think it's a great attitude. Again, you are definitely wise beyond your years, and that's because of good parenting. So again, shout out to your parents, because they're amazing people. And they need to know that. They need to know that they've raised one hell of a young gentleman. So kudos to both mom and dad for that. Now, you mentioned from 5 that, you had told your mom firmly, I'm going to be a wrestler. What was the spark that lit the flame? Because like I said, if the C4 show was the bonfire, and then that started you working ring crew and everything, what was the original spark that lit the flame? What made you fall in love with this crazy, psychotic, fun, extremely anxiety-driven world of pro wrestling?
Yeah, you're not wrong with that whole anxiety-driven world. But the thing that really got my interest in the sport was, as a child, we had this VHS tape of, I think, WrestleMania. No, actually, no, it was a DVD of the Hardy Boys. Some of their best matches of the early millennium and late 90s, of their TLC matches, their ladder matches, and all of that. But the one that got my attention the most was their SummerSlam Triangle TLC match. The one where you saw Hardy jumping off the ladder, I think for the first time through table on Bubba Ray. That was a great, great moment. It was so cool. And I remember just seeing that as a kid and being like, man, this is just really cool. And then after that, you would go to weekly television and watch John Cena, Batista, Rey Mysterio, and all that combined, I'd say, is what got me really interested. Also, all my siblings as well were watching it with me as well. So that kind of kept the spark going for me.
Amazing. And what do your siblings think about you and this crazy world of wrestling?
They think it's great. They knew I wanted to do it, and they're honestly probably the reason why I'm doing it, because they were the ones to encourage me to actually not give up. Because we were all big dreamers at the time. So as a child, I wanted to be a wrestler. My other brother wanted to be a musician. Other ones wanted to be musicians as well. Actresses, actors. Just we all had big dreams, and I was the youngest one, so I kind of followed their lead, and I just really wanted to keep going. So here I am. Thankfully, because of them, I'm where I'm at.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Very humbling as well, that the family encourages one another. And that is the greatest thing in the world, support systems, right? Support systems can lift you up in your lowest of lows, and they can keep you up there even when you're unsure, you have those doubts. Support systems can mean the world, and it sounds like you got a great one, and that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. It's all because I'm honestly, when it comes to support systems, my oldest brothers have been really molding me to be a wrestler as a child. So I remember my mother watched me I was watching TV, NXT at the time, and I was watching Neville, who's now Pac, like back to his old self. And I remember she watched him and she's like, if you want to do that stuff, you got to take gymnastics. And I remember just thinking, oh, that's nothing. No, I'm not taking gymnastics. That's silly. And then my brother overheard that conversation, and he's like, she's actually right. You got to take gymnastics if you actually want to do this wrestling thing. And on top of that, a few months later, he told me, if you want to actually get into wrestling, you got to do like drama classes. So then here I was in high school taking gymnastics classes. I eventually had a job at a gymnastics gym. And then every semester I'd take drama classes in school, just because, all for the eventual goal of making it as a wrestler. So if it wasn't for my parents, they definitely, because of their influences and their ideas, they helped prepare me for the world of professional wrestling a little better.
So even when there was doubts on the parents' mind, like this may be a pipe dream, they still kind of pushed you or gave you guidance in the right direction. That's incredible. That is really incredible. Shout out again to the Benito family. They're one heck of a group of people. I'll say that they're pretty damn cool. So what is what would you say in terms of like have your whole family been to one of your shows? Have they watched you wrestle? Dad, mom, siblings, the whole nine yards?
Yeah, we've never had. I think the closest thing to the whole family was my first match ever, which was against my old coworker at the time who trained with me. His name was La Sombre Verde, which was, I think it's the green bird or something like that. But yeah, we wrestled our first match. It was a very bad first match on my part. It was like the nerves were everywhere, but that was the first and only time I think the most of the family was there. Like my sister was there, my oldest brother was there, my mother was there, my sister's boyfriend was there, which was pretty big, and then a lot of other siblings. And well, it was really cool. It was really cool.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. So looking at all the impressive list of people that you've been able to, stare across the ring with. And let me see if you agree with me on this. I always describe wrestling as the great dance.
Yeah.
When you could find that partner that's fluid and you could feed off each other and you could tell this story without words, because people don't realize how complicated it is to tell an entire story without speaking a single word. I mean, yeah, there may be smack talk here and there in the ring, but you're essentially telling a story of good versus evil without a single ounce of dialogue. And like you said, you have to have those faces. You have to be able to sell emotion. You have to be able to put fans in that moment where they want to cheer for you or they want to watch you fall. And it is the most extremely complicated thing ever. But would you agree with me on that analogy that this is a great dance when you can have two dance partners that you literally just want to fight forever with?
Yeah, I'm being honest. It really is that. I love having analogies for professional wrestling because it's such a weird thing to try to pinpoint. Even when it comes to being an independent wrestler, when people ask how's it like, I tell them it's kind of like a rock band trying to get their big break. They tour anywhere they can, everywhere they can, just to try to see if the right person is going to watch them one night. That's really what I give them for wrestling as well. And for when it comes to the emotional game as well, trying to get people emotionally invested in the craft, I credit people that I've watched as a child. I used to watch guys like Jim Carrey a whole bunch and guys like Mr. Bean, guys who were so good at making people react off of their physical actions. So that kind of helped influence me in my way of presenting myself in the ring with some of my physical mannerisms. It kind of helps get the crowd a little more engaged because of what I do without even speaking, which is great.
It is very cool to get engaged like that. So you mentioned Jim Carrey, you mentioned Mr. Bean. It sounds like you got a good comedy background in behind you. Do you go back further in terms of comedian? Like, do you enjoy Eddie Murphy's early work, Richard Pryor? I would even say go far back as the original kings of comedy, in my opinion, the Three Stooges.
Yeah, I love. I've never actually watched a full piece of work from the Three Stooges, but I've watched many little tidbits here and there. But it was mainly from I usually loved watching stand up comedy. So guys like Eddie Murphy, Bernie Mac, Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle especially, and also Russell Peters as well. He's a great fellow Canadian, I believe. But
He's from Brampton. He's from right where I'm from.
oh, but yeah, guys like him and also guys like Jim Carrey. Because as a child, I was a big fan of comedy movies, and my mom, who's really big fan of guys who just act silly, so I look up her and just watched her things as well. And yeah, I was a big fan of that as a child. So I'd always try to mimic what they do as a child. I do weird faces and always just physically walk weird or just act weird at school. So my older brothers can attest. When they saw me in kindergarten, I'd do the weirdest of things out of nowhere. So it's all because of them. So yeah, I'm a big fan of comedy. I'd say it's one of the reasons why I love the entertainment business overall so much.
Absolutely, and wrestling really is that whole ball of wax and then some. I mean, you got to be able to think fast on your feet, so improv is a key. You got to be able to, again, be athletically inclined to tell these stories without words in the ring. You have to have the facial features down. You have to have everything. You literally, when you're in the ring, you hold the entire crowd's emotions in the palm of your hand, whichever way you want to sway them. A simple gesture, a simple, clench of the jaw, a simple, fist pump shake to get the crowd all right. That could change the landscape of every match. Has there ever been a moment where you've walked into a hostile crowd and you've been the one that was getting booed because you weren't that crowd's hero, and then somehow you managed to turn the tide with the crowd and get them on your side?
I can mention two different experiences. My first experience was where I was coming into this show preparing myself for the worst. Like if I was gonna walk into like an ECW level harsh crowd, and ironically, that was my first time wrestling in front of a C4 crowd, because that crowd is a much more hardcore style crowd. They like crazy style wrestling, so I expected me coming in with my big smile and like, come on guys. I thought they were gonna eat me up and spit me out. I really thought it was going to be that type of thing. So I was ready to just give them the best physical show I could give them. But as soon as I came out, they welcomed me so much. And then I was like, man, why are they reacting such a way? And looking back, I thought it was because I volunteered at shows. So some people might have remembered my face. A bunch of other things came up to mind. But I think it's just because they probably remembered me from the past, kind of like how the volunteering days, because they saw me standing as security as a scrawny little kid who probably couldn't break up a fight to save his life. So they probably they probably saw him as a wrestler. Now he's like, oh, that's great. Let's cheer for this guy. So I guess 10 people cheering for me led to like the whole place. I guess it kind of resonated. And the second place was, I was in a place in Quebec City where the whole crowd, not the whole crowd, but a few people were kind of booing me. And then my goal was to get them to turn and like cheer for me, of course. But then halfway through the match, I really hyperextended my knee. So the whole match was kind of just me trying to struggle to get like some type of reaction. And I was limping the whole time. So overall, it wasn't a great night. I sadly didn't get them on my back that night. But overall, it was a pretty fun experience to finally get a crowd to not like me. I know it sounds weird, but it was the first time they actually didn't enjoy my work, which was an interesting feeling.
That would be an interesting take. Is that something that you use as motivation to be like, okay, you know what? It didn't go my way that night. I hyperextended my knee. Things weren't the way I mapped them out that night. Now I just got to, get healthy again. I got to come back stronger, and I got to show this crowd what they didn't get to see that first time around.
Yeah, most definitely. The next time I go to that crowd, I don't want to say which show because I wouldn't want people to think certain things about that show. But my goal for the next time I go to that promotion will be to just steal the show the best I can, really, honestly.
Isn't that the kind of staple? Like, that's you in a nutshell. You just go in, you steal the show. You don't even really try to steal the show. You're just that damn good.
Oh, dude, I try. Trust me, I try.
That's a shirt right there. Junior Benito on the back, steal the show.
No, I don't know about that, man. But thank you. That means a lot, though.
Come on, I'm trying to give you a t-shirt idea. You didn't like it? Wow, shot down. Horrible. Now I feel horrible.
I love the idea.
Right on. A couple more questions, and like I said, we'll play that game, and I'll let you go enjoy your night. In the grand scheme of your career, like I said, it's been an impressive uphill climb. There's been a couple peaks and valleys, but it's like a flat line, really. It's like a heartbeat. It goes up and down throughout it. Can you look back at your career thus far and think of something that, if there was a chance, everybody looks for something in life where they can do over something. Okay, I want to try that again, because if I ever got the opportunity, I want to try that again. Do you ever have one of those do-over moments? And is there ever a moment where you doubted yourself completely and thought about hanging up the boots forever?
I don't know. me at 21 talking about hanging up the boots sounds kind of weird. I'm not gonna lie, but I honestly, when it comes to wishing to redo certain things, I wish I could do that for every match, because everything in every match that I've had, I always have one moment where I wish I could have done better and something like that. So it's I'd say if I could do it for every match, I would. There's not a specific point in time where I would have done it, but to get to your other question, where it comes to close to hanging up the boots, I want to say, I guess the concussion match where I went against Josh. I never said I would never consider hanging up the boots, but I definitely got into some deeper thoughts after that match, more than any other match, probably after that.
Right on. So, okay, sorry to be cliche about hanging up the boots, but like deeper thoughts where you kind of doubted yourself and your abilities, think, is this something I want to do long term? Is this something I want to, still feel out after, because concussions are serious. I mean, 20 years ago, concussions were nothing.
Yeah.
Just take 2 aspirin, call me in the morning. Now we know it's a lot more serious, especially with science and evolving technologies. We know that you have to take a concussion very seriously, because you have no idea what frame of mind the mind will be in, right?
Yeah. One thing concussions are just, they're very, 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 very dangerous. So I'm very thankful that we're not in '03 because back in the day, man, like you said, concussions were just quickly breezed through. But there's a lot of people nowadays that are wrestling today and or unfortunately are with us today that have paid the price, sadly. So I'm glad we've learned from those experiences and gotten better as a sport, honestly.
Absolutely. I couldn't 100% agree with you. Again, like I can't believe you are probably the wisest above your years out of any conversation that I've had, and it's incredible. I'm having a good time. I hope you are as well. My final question before we get into the game. This is a cliche question, but you know what? I'm going to ask it anyways because cliches are fun sometimes.
Yeah.
It's actually a job interview question. Junior Benito, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Great question. To be honest, in 5 years, how old am I going to be? 26. At 26, I'd love to be wrestling somewhere where I can wrestle the best wrestlers in the world consistently, and for it to be the only thing that I'm doing. Not to knock on anybody else that's wrestling and doing jobs, because we have no choice but to do that. Like right now, we're wrestling. We also have other jobs to help fund the wrestling, but my goal is just to wrestle all the time and have a blast and just be thankful for what I have, because honestly, to physically be able to wrestle on a consistent basis is a blessing, man, because it's so easy to get hurt. The smallest thing can just break you in half. So I'm just hoping that at 26 I can be wrestling the best in the world and to not worry about anything else. That's all.
Right on. I like that. Again, I think that's a great attitude and a great outlook on things. In 5 years, I'll be 44. So thanks for making me feel super old.
Come on.
And my only goal at that time would be to keep having great conversations, such as the one we've had today, but also try to maintain what little hair I may have left.
Hey, man, hair, schmear. I think I'm going to lose mine in a few years, too, man. I'm not going to
lie. Well, okay, then you know what? If Junior Benito goes bald, fuck it, I'm going to shave it off, too. I'm going to shave it off in solidarity for you, man.
Hey, hair is nothing but a matter. That's all.
I know, but I have a weird, odd-shaped head, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. All right, now it's game time. I always play games with all my guests, and this is a game, like I said, trying to get everyone to Christmas spirit because we are going to be dropping this sometime in November. So I'm going to play Forced Mount Rushmore. It's a game that I created where I usually give the people that I'm having conversations with 5 wrestlers off the top of the head, and I say you have to put them in from 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. But you and I are going to switch it up because you look like a man who loves movies and entertainment, much like myself. So you know a good Christmas flick over a bad Christmas flick. Am I right?
Yes, but I might not be that knowledgeable of Christmas movies. I'll let you know.
All right. Well, I'm going to, then you know what? We don't necessarily have to do Christmas movies. I'll throw a couple Christmas movies in there, but I'm going to throw certain movies in there. And I want to see where you rank them. Okay? All right. So 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. Here we go. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So the first movie, Die Hard. Okay. That's the first one I'm going to give you is Die Hard. Very easy. Everyone's seen Die Hard. You know, welcome to the party, pal. Fucking throwing Hans Gruber off a roof. It's not Christmas till Bruce Willis throws somebody off a roof, in my opinion. Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Second Christmas movie or second movie period, I am going to throw it a Christmas one. It's a classic. It's the toughest guy in the world, Arnold Schwarzenegger, in Jingle All the Way. Everyone's seen that movie at least once. So, yeah, everybody's seen that movie. Okay, Put the Cookie Down. Come on. Great movie. The next one I'm going to give you is a Halloween-ish kind of movie, if you will. Well, it's not ish. It definitely is. I'll give you Scream. Everybody's seen Scream or one of the Screams, so they know Ghostface and the nonsense of, I'm not a big fan of those movies, but I'm going to give you those as well. And then I'm going to give you something that I feel a lot of people underappreciate for his work, but this is one of my favorite Jim Carrey movies, and that would be The Truman Show. A lot of people weren't big fans of it, but I actually was. I enjoyed the different aspect that he gave us in that dramedy. And then to round off the top 5, another comedy classic, in my opinion, again, which is another Jim Carrey movie, but it's one of my all-time favorites, Ace Ventura. Not part 2, When Nature Calls, not so much, but part 1 for sure. So those are the 5 movies that I've given you.
Okay, I'm instantly going to go ahead. The 5th one, definitely the worst one is Scream. Simply because horror movies and Junior Benito, I'm not gonna lie, it's not my jam. It's not my cup of tea.
Fair enough. Okay.
But yeah, number 4, I'll probably put Die Hard. Number 3, I'm gonna put, it was Jingle All the Way?
Jingle All the Way, yeah.
Yes, I'll put that one as well for 3rd because Arnold Schwarzenegger is the man. Number 2, we got both Jim Carrey movies. I'm gonna say Ace Ventura and Truman Show at number 1 because, like that Truman Show, it's one of my personal favorite movies because we got to see the actual acting ability of Jim Carrey, and it was one of his best performances, I feel.
Thank you. A lot of people hated on that movie because they were so used to the comedy, but they didn't see the sprinkle of, something special in that movie. There really, really was.
Honestly, that movie, in my opinion, was wonderful. Honestly, I loved it.
There you go. Look at that. We're vibing on so many different levels. Junior Benito, I want to say thank you so much for this conversation today, and to officially let you know, you are now a member of the Straight Talk family, my friend. Anytime you want to come back on the show and wrap it up again, I would absolutely love to go on a round 2 and a round 3 with you because I think you're one hell of a human being, both in and out of the ring.
Hey, man, thank you very much. And also message me anytime you'd like to do another podcast, as long as it's not tomorrow, because tomorrow I'm wrestling.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that is all. But so much for having me, man. Honestly, it means a lot.
Oh, no, bro. It was my honor completely. And before I go, anybody who's not following the rising star of Junior Benito, where can they follow your journey on the crazy world of social media?
You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. They're likely all under the name Junior_Benito, and the O at the end is a 0. And honestly, that is where you can reach me on any type of social media. I post TikToks as well, and every day as much as I can. And then Twitter, I post my thoughts. And then Instagram, I post anything that just looks cool. That's really it.
He uses these social medias for exactly what they are. Guys, you know my socials, they're in the link below. But please, again, let me thank Junior Benito for joining us on Straight Talk Wrestling. Peace, love, and wrestling. We'll see you guys next time. Peace. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to tune in next week for another great episode on all available podcast platforms and hosted on Podbean. Also, check us out on YouTube at Straight Talk Wrestling, on Instagram at Straight Talk Wrestling, on Facebook at Straight Talk Wrestling, and on Twitter at _Straight Talk. And if you feel the need to buy some sweet merch, check us out on ProWrestlingTees.com.
Leaving the scene with no trace, not in my league. You out of place. I'm not at the top. I'm outer space. Can't eat with us. We're out of place. I'm doing fine. I'm feeling great. You're not my fan. You can't relate. Straight talk going state to state.